Yo, what's going on, good people? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, representing Team Kings of Games, baby. And today I'm coming at you guys with an update for my true Draco list. Now, I've been playing Dracos pretty different. I change them up every time, like every single time. In fact, every time I pick this deck up and just like start looking through it and play test with it, I change my build every time. I've been playing dedicated going second true Dracos for about 7 months now. I just always felt like the deck had a higher ceiling going second. I don't know why, man. I just always thought that way. I felt that the deck was just so powerful by itself. I really wanted to prove to people that you could play it without floodgates, like relying heavily on floodgates. Because a lot of people would always say, like, oh, the only reason why true Dracos can hang in the meta right now is because they play so many floodgates. And so, like, now what they're saying is, like, it's like the floodgates that carry the deck, and it's the floodgates that win the games. But I really want to show people that these worm-type monsters are really good standalone cards by themselves. They're really powerful deck. I find that it's still a really strong contender for the meta. Even though it's a tier 2 rogue deck, it's still really strong, and it has a pretty good matchup all across the playing field. So the way I played it was really different, because not only did I play going second true Dracos, but I chose not to main deck evenly matched. I chose not to main deck some of the typical standard going second cards. You guys will see my list, and I believe that it'll really catch you off guard, but also I hope that it's an inspiration to you. This Thursday, I took this deck and got 3rd place, taking it to my locals. I just really want to test the build just to prove that it really was as good as I knew it already was. And a lot of people were caught off guard by my card choices and the way that I would smoke screen into other things and start playing in such a different way. Like, it's crazy. So we're gonna hop into my list. I really think that Dracos are good. Oh yeah, before I hop into my list, I'll tell you guys what my game plan was. So because I'm not playing evenly matched and I'm not playing your standard board wipes going second, the game plan was to let my opponent play. I didn't want to stop anything. Game 1, I wanted to let them play so I can get as much information on the deck that they're playing, so I can understand thoroughly exactly how and when I would need to side deck against them and how impactful the cards in my main deck are, so it gives me knowledge on whether or not I need to side. The other thing too was, after I've let them establish their board and let them play, what I was trying to do was use as much 1-for-1 exchanges to clear my opponent's field. And at the same time, while I'm breaking their board, I was trying to make sure that I can establish my own field. And that's naturally, as you're breaking boards with Dracos, you're building your own, because you're summoning out your monsters, tributing your spells and traps, and you're clearing cards in the process. So as you're thoroughly doing that, you're digging for powerful cards like Demise, Duality, and Desires, and you're trying to resolve those so that you can gain more advantage. So you're trying to capitalize on Draco's already abilities to have spot removal and searchable spot removal. And as you're clearing the board, you're trying to simplify the game state through 1-for-1 exchanges, resolve a powerful card that lets you get pluses. And if you can't, then you can still, if you can't get a plus and if you can't break your opponent's board, you can still finish the job on their turn, because you can play Dracos reactive, and that's how I chose to play them, was reactive versus proactive, and you capitalize off of the incremental value that you can get off of the Dracos to out-research your opponent and plus over them, and you can finish picking their board apart via tribute summons through Apocalypse in return and just clearing more cards, which is really good. So it's a really strong deck. It has a great resource game. I think that these monsters, just being able to get me more cards on my turn or my opponent's turn every time my opponent decides to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just ridiculously good. And that's really what won a lot of my games, was the Draco monsters herself and not the floodgates. So yeah, true Dracos are actually a good deck. It's not a floodgate deck. Like, I've proved thoroughly that you can play the deck without floodgates and it's still good. So the monster lineup is going to be 3 Ignis Heat, 2 Majesty Maiden, and 1 Clay Matthews. So I decided to go with this monster lineup. I originally always wanted to do it. I was testing with General, and I was going to play General, but I ended up cutting General for the Amano Iwatos. So, like, these are really good going second. Even if you don't open a mono, oftentimes, like, I played, I was playing into a really nasty board. There were 2 negations that can target a face-up card on the field and negate it, and that was kind of annoying because a lot of the times my effects were trying to resolve on field. So what I ended up having to do was I tributed an Apocalypse to summon the Ignis Heat. I attempted to target one of my opponent's cards. He ended up chaining the, which I didn't think was really smart, but he chained the Red Dragon Abyss thingy, the synchro that you bring out from Agapane or whatever, to target my Ignis Heat, which I was like, I thought he was gonna wait. So then, that's why it was, because I was using Apocalypse to target that Red Dragon thing. So he just chained it. That was smart. He chained it to Ignis, but at the same time, I was like, well, you just gave me another play, so I just chained Ignis. I got one of my spells, but at the same time, I also chained to Ignis's effect, my strike on the Monarchs, and negated the effects of his Zombie Stein, the rank 8, and then Zombie Stein chained his effect to negate that. So at the end of it, I ended up being able to play through the negations, and my Ignis Heat got me. It still got me my Ignis Heat still got me my heritage because I chained Ignis Heat to the red dragon thing. So basically, long story short, like I played through the negations, I baited them out, and I was still able to get a heritage, which actually got me more draws, and I was able to finish picking the board apart, and it was really amazing that I was able to play through 2 negations with just the simple, like, the mechanic of how Dracos work and having that strike on the Monarchs to answer the second negation, which was really strong, considering that I was playing with less cards than, you know, you normally start with because that stupid degenerate stuff. But yeah, we have the 6 Draco monsters. They're really powerful. I think that you can use these in a skillful manner. Like, you rely more on these. My list relies more on these than it does on the Floodgates. And in fact, my goal at the end of the day is to turbo out Ignis, Majesty's Maiden, and Knuckles, Clay Matthew in the same turn. So that way, the advantage in increments that I capitalize off of my opponent playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Allows me to out-resource them and finish systematically picking their board apart on their turn. And the Amanos, which is just to stop the degenerate plays. That's why I was going to play 2... I was going to actually play 2 generals because I wanted to general lock. Like, I was practicing with general lock for like 4 months. Just getting 2 generals on field, and it's really strong keeping my Dracos from being able to be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Having the Apocalypse to have, and, you know, using Erupt to stop Borreload from cracking it was really, really strong. And in fact, it was really good. Like, I had combos with Knuckles, with General, where I would use General and like have him on field. Then I would tribute him off of Strike of the Monarchs or pop him off Apocalypse. Well, normally I would tribute him off Strike of the Monarchs, and then I'd negate a card, special summon Mariamne, use Apocalypse to pop Mariamne to have my opponent's board, use Mariamne's effect to search Knuckles, then drop a Knuckles, and the next action they do, get True King's Return, bring out Mariamne from the grave off return, then pop it on my next turn with Diagram and get so many pluses. It's crazy. Like, you can actually do combos with Dracos, but no, like, people don't understand that because, like, they play the deck so proactive and so reliant on Floodgates that, like, they're not even playing true Dracos anymore. They're just playing a Floodgate deck with Dracos in it. Then I played the Mariamne. It's a really good card for out-resourcing your opponent. When you're trying to gain advantage as much as possible, having this card in rotation via True King's Return actually allows you to get 3 extra cards every turn. You get a draw for turn. And then where your Diagram normally would make you go -1, because every time you use Diagram, you're getting rid of a card that you have. You can break even with Diagram by popping something and drawing off of Heritage, but you never really plus off Diagram. But when you're looping this off True King's Return, every turn you get a +1 off of Diagram. And it becomes a +2 if you get Heritage or Disciples, which is really nuts because, like, now you've gotten your draw for turn plus the 2 extra cards you get off of resolving Diagram, popping this, in addition to whatever else you already had. And this was how I kept out-resourcing my opponent in grind games because I was just looping this off return and recycling return with Disciples and just keeping it going. It was just really strong. So I played 9 monsters against your typical standard 6 monster lineup, and I never had issues with Demise at all. I turboed out a lot. Like, the least amount of Dracos that I summoned in a turn was just 2. But on an average basis, I was summoning out all 3 of them, Ignis, Maiden, and Knuckles in 1 turn as I'm finishing my opponent's boards apart. The only time I'd summon 2 is if I dropped an Amano Iwata on the field, and that restricted me from only being able to get 2 more Dracos out via the extra attributes from the spells. Now for our spells, speaking of, we played 3 copies of Double D's. This field spell is just really amazing, you guys. And we also played 2 copies of Optimus Prime to search it out. I normally play Domain in the main. I've always main deck Domain since Maximum Crisis released the True Draco archetype. The only reason why I really liked the artwork and stuff outside of the artwork, I just really love worm type monsters. I went through this phase on the channel where everything that I posted on my channel was True Draco and True King related. For those of you who have stuck around long enough, you guys knew around that time period where every deck I was releasing had like Dracos and True Kings in it because I just like was loving it so much. But, like, I've been a huge fanatic of it. But yeah, we always played Domain in the main because I've always just felt like Domain is such a powerful and slept on card. I feel like Domain is so good that you should not play it. I'm never going to tell somebody how to play their deck, but I just feel like I highly recommend you play Domain. I've seen too many lists without Domain. People are just now acknowledging it. Even if you're like late to the party, like Domain's just so broken. I've never not played it. Except for this list now, I side Domain when I have to go first because going second, my idea was like, oh, we could break the board. We could simplify the game state. We can establish the Domain and prevent our opponent from getting more stuff out the extra deck. But a lot of the times, what I ran into the problem was there was an extra deck monster or 2 that I couldn't clear, and Domain didn't matter because they already had out what they needed to get out, if that makes sense. You can't stop your opponent from getting out something that they've already gotten out. So I was just like, dang, we have to really just side the Domains for when we go first. And then we played 3 Card of Demise, which in general, it goes in tandem to what was previously aforementioned, where we're trying to 1-for-1 our opponent for as many cards as possible and resolve a card like this where we've won for one of them, and technically we're playing on the same advantage. Normally the card economy is pretty equilibrium on the basis that you have the same that I have, but when I resolve Demise, I'm going to have a lot more cards on hand and then end up having more cards on field than you, and I can continue gaining more resources capitalizing off my Dracos because you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So Demise, 3 Desires. I'm the dude that plays 3 Desires. Yeah, people hate it. You can crucify me. You can leave a hate comment. You can try to troll me. It's never going to change. I'm playing 3 Desires. We have 3 copies of Duality as well. We were just trying to dig for some of the best cards in our deck. Most importantly, oh yeah, we'll continue. We have 3 Heritage and 3 Disciples. Disciples is kind of high-key my favorite right now. It's just kept me in the game. I would have lost games multiple times if I didn't have this card. Like, it really makes a huge difference in your grind game. Obviously, Heritage is really strong, but I'm trying to be less of a greedy player and more of a smart player with my Dracos. So I'm not trying to just haphazardly waste some of my resources just to draw more, because it's like you're throwing cards in your hand away to get more cards, and you're not circumventing at all. You're actually not even filtering, because like you're breaking even at the end of it. And oftentimes when I was playing that way, I would end up drawing extra copies of the same cards that I got rid of to make the Heritage live in the first place. So just Disciples is better for me. And like I said, I'm playing reactive versus proactive, so I'm not trying to dig for a bunch of Floodgates and play proactive. I'm digging for these cards in particular. I made 3 Strikes and 3 Stormforths. These were my go-to going second cards for me. Instead of Evenlies and Impermanents, I wanted to make it... The thing was, I'm playing going second Dracos, but I wanted to make it as difficult as possible for me to break a board without playing unfair one-sided cards like Evenly and other stuff like that. I really just wanted to make it to where I had to really rely on strategic skill and a very efficient tactic of 1-for-1 exchanges on my opponent, where my opponent's like, okay, like you're clearing my cards, but you have a little bit of resources just like me. And then I'm like, no, I have Draco monsters on field. They're going to give me more resources, and I have a Demise, so I'm really ahead of you now. So I've out-resourced you, and I've systematically picked your board apart, and Stormforce good for that. Strike is better. Like, I've negated a lot of Evenlies off of this. I've negated Demises. I'm sorry, not Demises, but Desires off of this. I've used this to negate Summon Sorceresses before. I've used this to negate Negates, which was cool. Like I was explaining how I was playing through those Negates earlier. It's just a really strong card. It's not once per turn. You just tribute your guys. You draw one. In general, like when I was playing the Generals, like 2.5 months ago, when I was playing double General, because the General lock is powerful, like your whole board can't be targeted or destroyed. Like this card got me even more advantage, tributing him to get Mariamne, pocketing Mariamne off Apocalypse, using her effective search, using Apocalypse to then tribute something. It was good, but I cut him for the Amanos because there's too much degeneracy right now. And then the Stormforce are just not targeting on destruction removal. Like I've actually Stormforced a Colossus, and I summoned my my Ignis Heat. I activated Diagram. My opponent tried to chain Titan by discarding the egg, targeting his Colossus, chaining Titan. I didn't chain Strike. I chained Ignis Heat, then I chained Strike. So Strike disrupted the Titan from resolving, and then I targeted his Colossus to negate it. And I activated, the only reason why I activated Diagram is because like I was like, I need to try to force some way to either make him resolve his Titan, which was dumb because I couldn't search anyways, or I just need to have Diagram up so that my Ignis Heat can't be destroyed by battle, because I really don't see myself clearing this board. But he basically played into his own demise. So I ended up chaining this. It disrupted the Titan from resolving, negated the Colossus, and at the same time, I chained Ignis Heat as chaining too, so I got my Heritage, and then distributed him for cost. I drew a card, then Heritage was live. Then I got Heritage, got a draw off of Heritage, and I was able to resolve my Diagram, and I just finished clearing his board. It was really good. So yeah, Strike and Stormforth are insane. Like, they're just such powerful cards, and these are reactive versus proactive. This could easily be 6 Floodgates, but I just, like I said, I wanted to play the deck more skillful, and I really wanted to prove that Dracos don't need Floodgates to win, like, if you know what you're doing, which I hope you guys understand. I'm not attacking the Floodgate players at all, so please don't get in your feelings and think that you're being attacked. I just really wanted to show that, like, you can play Dracos a lot of different ways, and this is one of the ways I chose to play them. I played 3 Erupt. This was the only Floodgate that I played, instead of playing, like, Summon Limits, Anti-Spells, There Can Only Be Ones, Rivalries, Gozens. The only reason why I played this card was actually literally because I struggle extremely, like, I struggle a lot against Thunder Dragons in particular, because if I don't have a Stormforth or a Strike, it's really hard for me to clear the Colossuses and the Titans. I mean, sure, like, I could use Apocalypse to half them, but smart players always were summoning them in defense, so the Colossuses just stayed, and I couldn't kill them. Like, I was playtesting them, like, I kept trying to pop Colossus, and I couldn't do it. So I was like, man, like, I'm just going to play the Monarchs Erupt, and this is going to be the only Floodgate that I play. And it's just, that's the only reason where you know your deck has a weak matchup, you want to mitigate that weakness. So I chose to play Monarch's Erupt, not because like we're trying to hide behind a billion Floodgates. In fact, this is the only one I play. That's why, like I said, I play reactive, and I really am not just setting 5 and passing and hiding behind a bunch of back rows. And then 3 Apocalypse, and then 1 True King's Return. These are the only traps I played in my list. Originally, these were going to be Into the Voids, because I love Into the Void. I've always been a huge fan of Into the Void and Dracos, but the issue was me not having enough main deck outs to the Colossuses and my opponent being able to outgrind me and just get me to a point where like now they've had too many turns to build up and then they end up clearing my entire field, and it's so irritating. So yeah, like we have to have the Erupts. This was literally, if Colossus didn't exist, I wouldn't even play these, but they are really strong. And these are broken, you know? All True Draco and True King spells or traps have 3 effects, and they're all nuts. Apocalypse, most notably, is the most powerful one. Let's see where we are. All right, and then real quick, my side deck. So I was kind of smoke screening into a bunch of hand traps. I wanted to, the main thing also, in addition to when people found out my game plan, I wanted to catch them off guard by having a whole nother game plan in my side deck. So instead of side decking, like for going first a bunch of Floodgates, I actually side decked hand traps because I knew nobody expects Dracos to have hand traps. So a lot of good players side out their Called by the Graves. I'm not lying to you. Anybody playing Dracos always sides out their Called by. So when you side in hand traps, you know that when you hand trap them, they have no counterplay. So I sided in 3 Gammas, the drivers, 3 Bells, 3 Ash, and 3 Impermanents. And what I would do is normally, whenever I'd side, like all of these weren't good in every matchup, but normally when I played like Thunders, I would side in the Gammas, the Ash, and the Bell. And I wouldn't side in Impermanents because it didn't do enough for me all the time. So I would only side it against the Guard Dragon ones where like you need an Impermanence, the Skull Dread. But what I would do to side in these 10 is I would take out the 3 Demise, that's 3 cards. I take out Amano Iwado and Mariamne, that's 6 cards. And then I would take out my my Stormforce. I'd take out my Stormforce, that's 9 cards. And then I'd find an extra 3 of like a Desires and cut it and make 10 cards taken out. And I'd take out the Demises because I'm playing hand traps. But the thing is like, you have a lot of draw power, and I've still resolved Heritage for 3 as if Demise never left my deck. And it was just really good because people didn't expect hand traps, and now like you're hand trapping them on their turn, you're simplifying the game state, and then you're clearing their board, and then now we're in the simplified game state. My little Draco monsters can allow me to out-resource you. Like I've done Gamma on my opponent's turn where like, because I didn't have Demise, I didn't have to worry about discarding my monsters, so I just had my Apocalypse face down and kept I kept my Ignis Heat in hand, and I ended up resolving Gamma on my opponent's turn and activate the Apocalypse. And instead of triggering the Apocalypse to get a pop, I decided to get rid of the driver just in case I needed to resolve another Gamma to summon my Ignis, which is really good. Like being able to Gamma on my opponent's turn and then capitalize off of it, summon an Ignis, and keep playing reactive versus proactive. And the same with the Ash and the Bells. When you take out your Demise, all your draw power can actually dig into more powerful cards like the hand traps, which was nuts. So yeah. Oh my gosh, she's playing hand trap True Dracos. We've never seen that before, but it's not like it's anything unique or creative. 1 copy of Domain of the Monarchs for when I'm going first, and this was a Necro Valley that we had to borrow. But Necro Valley was nuts too. I knew that Necro Valley would be stopping my worst matchup, which is Thunder Dragons, and it's not like I just automatically lose to that deck. It's just now they're so degenerate with the hand loops and crap and the negates, and then still putting up Colossus. It gets a little hard sometimes. Dracos don't always need to search. That's why Dracos don't automatically lose to Colossus. But what we struggle with is trying to out the Colossus because it's so hard to kill it. And when you don't have Erupt, it gets really difficult. So I needed like Strike, Stormforth, and Erupt. I needed 9 main deck outs for it. And I still wanted to play Necro Valley because either having Necro Valley or Domain was a strong block against that deck. And just floodgating them out of the duel was really good. Floodgate, right? Oh, 3 stacks. You're a hypocrite. You just said you don't play floodgates. It's a field spell, man. It's a really good field spell. So yeah, we played the 3, 6, 10... 13 hand traps, and then the 2 extra field spells, which are Necro Valley and Domain. And that is my going second Draco list, you guys. It's really different. I like it a lot. In fact, I loved it. The challenge that I gave myself a challenge on purpose just to make myself a better player with Dracos. And at the end of it, I learned a lot more about this deck. This is how I'm going to be playing it from now on. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. God bless you. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. And keep in mind that this is me. This is my deck. I can play it how I want. If you don't like it, that's fine. But I just ask in a kind and respectful way. Don't try to troll me, bro, because it's just a game at the end of it. And I do this for my fans more so than for myself. And I really just want to be an encouraging person and be an inspiration for Draco players out there to like show them how many ways you can do this thing. Like it's not always about the floodgates, man. But thank you guys anyways. Peace out, Joe.